David Rothkopf is CEO and editor of Foreign Policy magazine, and we know your magazine uses deadlines as well to get the articles in on time, to get the publication out. We all have deadlines.
Is that how that works?
It is. Making it relevant to our guests.
That is how that works.
But David, obviously the analogy only goes so far. Explain to us from your foreign policy expertise why it can be okay to move these deadlines and how to interpret it with regard to an ultimate deal.
Well, first of all, when we use deadlines, we stick to the deadlines. When these guys use deadlines, it's really kind of a stage prop, you know. I was kind of amused with Kerry yesterday saying we will not be driven by these deadlines, when in fact he the deadlines up. You know, it's a strange form of political theater that's designed to push us towards action. But in this case, there's a bit of a political gain to be made by dragging it out and looking like you're hammering out the deal past the deadlines, so it doesn't look like you're rushing into a deal. And that's all part of the showmanship behind this. Ultimately, I think you're going to end up with a deal.
David, the huge problem, as it seems right now, is whether or not to lift the arms embargo to keep arms and missiles out of Iran. And right now we're being told, I don't know if this is true or not, but we're being told by folks inside the room that Russia and China are now siding with Iran on this issue, so that makes life a little bit tougher for the United States. Is this a plank that we can afford to back down on to get this thing done?
Well, I would have said no, but there have been a lot of planks that we couldn't afford to back down on that we backed down on, in terms of deadlines, in terms of enrichment, in terms of a whole host of other things. So you might see some change in the U.S. position. I think the administration wants the deal. I think the Iranians want the deal. And I think that means that over the next couple of days, you're going to see compromise followed by other compromises.
So, David, you think that there is ultimately going to be a deal. So when the details of that deal come out, what are you going to be looking at specifically to figure out whether we got a good deal or not? What should we be looking at?
Well, in the first instance, you're going to look and you're going to say, you know, do we have the ability to inspect? Can we inspect whenever we want to? Can we inspect wherever we want to? And will we have a kind of an agreement, you know, to enforce violations in a swift way? I'm skeptical of things like snapbacks. I think it's a bit of a fantasy. But, you know, the one thing that I would really caution everybody to look at is not the deal itself, because that's not really the hardest part. The hardest part is the enforcement of the deal over the years that follow. The real tough thing is going to be getting the Iranians to stick with it, getting the Russians and the Chinese to be serious about it, and doing what we can to counterbalance Iran's efforts to spread its influence in the region, and doing what we can to counteract the impulse of others to explore nuclear proliferation to offset what they see as a potential threat from Iran. So it's not a destination, it's a journey, and it's going to be a long journey.